Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really alarming hidden camera scandal that has absolutely shaken the medical aesthetics industry to its core and sparked a massive national conversation about privacy. We're going to be looking at the case of AiR Lee, a highly prominent medical aesthetics group, and the frankly shocking discoveries made right inside their most private treatment rooms.
To really get a sense of this, let's put ourselves directly in the shoes of a consumer during a highly vulnerable moment. Imagine you're at a trusted clinic, right? You're undressing for a medical or cosmetic procedure. You glance up and you see a standard smoke detector on the ceiling. You probably wouldn't give it a second thought, but what if that device wasn't looking for smoke at all? What if it was actually looking at you?
Let's get right into Section 1, Hidden Cameras in Clinics.
The spark that ignited this massive investigation actually started on May 1st. A 30-year-old customer was at a clinic branch in Bankruptcy getting ready for a body sculpting treatment. Well, while she was changing, she spotted a strange device on the ceiling. She asked the staff about it, and they assured her it was just a smoke detector. But, she was sharp. She noticed there was already an obvious standard smoke detector right above her treatment bed, so why on earth would they need two? She pulled out her phone, used an image search feature, identified it as a hidden camera, and literally called the police right then and there. And sure enough, when authorities dismantled it, they found a lens and wiring hidden right inside.
Now, what's really wild here is the terrifying contrast between the clinic's initial excuses and the harsh reality uncovered by law enforcement. The clinic immediately put out a statement claiming these devices were just there to ensure medical quality and equipment safety. But the police, they found a totally different story. Investigators discovered stickers on these devices listing IP addresses, account names, and passwords. This meant that anyone with those credentials could just log in and view these highly private, vulnerable moments remotely in real time. It completely shattered that whole medical quality control defense.
Moving on to Section 2, the expanding filming storm.
The momentum of this investigation escalated so fast. After that first report in Bankruptcy, authorities didn't stop at just one clinic. They expanded their search. But as they did, they actually uncovered attempts to cover the tracks. A contractor was reportedly caught rushing down south to physically dismantle camera systems and format servers before the police could even get to them. But despite all these attempts to destroy evidence, the investigation swiftly led straight to the top, ending with the detention of the group's CEO, Chang Rushan, who was held incommunicado by the authorities.
And the scale here, it is absolutely staggering. Police executed searches across 18 different clinic branches. And get this? In every single one of those 18 branches, they located disguised recording devices in private spaces. This wasn't just some isolated incident or a single rogue employee. That sheer number points to a deeply systemic issue running across the entire clinic network.
The government's stance has been incredibly clear on this. Health Minister Xicheng Liang impartially emphasized just how severe this massive privacy breach really is, calling it deliberate and unforgivable. He pointed out that because this happened across multiple locations, it was clearly a purposeful, group-level behavior. The health ministry even went as far as saying that this level of violation could warrant the absolute most severe penalty, a complete suspension of operations for the offending clinics.
Let's peel back another layer in Section 3, Legal Trap of Refund Waivers.
Naturally, after the news broke, outraged consumers rushed straight back to the clinics demanding refunds. Some of these people had prepaid over $100,000 for unused treatments. But when they tried to get their money back, they hit a massive roadblock. Clinic staff handed them refund agreement forms that contained clauses forcing the consumer to abandon all future civil and criminal claims against the clinic. So essentially, they were being pressured into signing away their fundamental rights to seek justice just to get their own hard-earned money back.
Legal experts have broken down the reality of these waivers for us, and it's super important to understand. Certain crimes, like violating data protection laws or producing child sexual abuse material, and yes, minors were reportedly filmed here too, those are considered public offenses. You literally cannot legally waive the right to prosecute these. The state is going to pursue them no matter what. However, the crime of secretly filming an adult's private body parts, that's what's known as a telltale offense. If you sign that waiver and withdraw your complaint, you actually can lose your right to sue the clinic for that specific, highly invasive violation.
Fortunately, legal experts advise that you absolutely do not have to accept these predatory terms. Consumers can use a tactic called waiver clause striking. This just means you take a pen, physically cross out the clause that demands you waive your civil and criminal rights, and then you sign the refund document. Doing this explicitly preserves your legal standing to sue for damages down the line, which is absolutely crucial if you happen to discover later that your intimate footage was leaked online. This brings us to a bigger issue in Section 4, gray area of medical privacy.
The harsh reality is that these clinics exploited systemic loopholes in the Medical Care Act. While the rules do state that recording patients requires consent, they leave this really vague exception for medical necessity or emergencies. And clinics have started utilizing this gray area, basically claiming they need hidden cameras for self-protection against potential medical disputes. But this has completely blurred the line between legitimate facility safety and gross privacy violations. It creates this wild environment where patients are unknowingly monitored during incredibly private procedures, like full-body hair removal, where, patients are fully exposed.
Professor Fang Yan Hozhuan brings up an incredibly vital point here. Technology has empowered a really dangerous shoot but don't tell culture. The core problem isn't just the initial recording itself, it's the digital era we live in. Once that video exists, its distribution, duplication, and potential to be monetized on underground networks becomes virtually impossible to control, and that causes unimaginable ongoing trauma to the victims.
Finally, let's look at actionable steps in Section 5, how victims can protect themselves.
If you or someone you know is impacted by this, consumer protection agencies and lawyers have outlined these exact steps to take. First, make sure you preserve all your receipts, contracts, and communication records with the clinic. Second, just like we discussed, physically cross out any waiver clauses before you accept a refund. Third, join forces with other victims. And fourth, file a formal complaint with official consumer protection channels. In fact, over 250 of these official complaints were filed within just a few days of the news breaking.
And remember, there is immense strength in numbers here. Already over 1,400 victims have united in consumer self-help groups online to demand accountability. By grouping together, victims can share legal resources, prevent the clinic from just sweeping the whole issue under the rug, and lay the critical groundwork for a potential class action lawsuit. The biggest takeaway? You do not have to fight this alone.
As we wrap up this explainer, we're really left to critically ponder a very uncomfortable question. When digital surveillance tools are so easily disguised, and when our regulations clearly lag so far behind the technology, how can we truly guarantee our safety in spaces where we are essentially required to be at our most vulnerable? It's a massive wake-up call for legislative reform, stronger medical ethics, and honestly, extreme vigilance from all of us as consumers. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep staying informed.